Our guest today is a songwriter, vocalist of several acclaimed albums, a two-time Juno winner who just released her Purple album, or depending on when this airs, it is about to come out perhaps. It's called My World is the Sun. The release date is February 20th on digital CD and double LP. She's going on a big tour, as she often does. She has Canadian tour dates from that release day through till March 7th when she arrives here in Vancouver to play the Chan Center. So please welcome to the show, Dominique Fils-Aimé.
Hey, thank you. Thank you for having me.
Oh, it's my pleasure. This is the first meeting, so it's lovely to meet you. How are you doing out on the other side of our country here?
I'm so great. The sun came out. It changes everything. It heals my soul. It's been very cold and gray here, so it's really nice to have a day with some sunshine. How about you? How's Vancouver?
That's funny because it's the same over here. It's a sunny day today, so we're bringing it.
It's perfect for the album. It's all in theme.
Yeah, so you have colors associated with each of your projects, and I think that's definitely a way to get into discussing the album. So maybe as an introduction to how you theme your projects, because I know you talk in terms of trilogies of 3 of the records that you've previously made, and that you're on another one here too. Let's look at the color side of it for now. What does the purple theme of this album mean to you, and what do you want to talk about it in terms of what it conveys?
The purple aspect of this album, it can't really be explained without taking in consideration the whole trilogies and all the albums, because I feel like, well, they're made as cycles. They're meant to represent cycles and evolutions, because I feel like time, at least for me, my time and evolution have been like an outward spiral. And I started, the very first album was blue, and then it was red, and then there was yellow. And they were all representing elements and specific musical styles and genre, that because I was exploring the history behind musical styles from blues to jazz to soul. And for this new trilogy, since it's a continuation and it's a bit more personal and anchored in the now, looking towards the future, there was definitely, the first one was green because it was the meeting of the end of the trilogy, yellow, and the blue, the start. And now we're at that place where it's a mix of the blue and the red. So the blue and red were anchored in blues, silence, heavy emotions, and the red was jazz, it was fire, it was celebration. So have those meet, but this time, instead of being on the physical realm, I was trying to address an elevated place where we would talk about spirituality and well-being more. So it's also linked to, because everyone is linked to a chakra. So this one is linked to the crown chakra, which is kind of part of our skeleton, emotionally speaking, but is outside of our body. So it connects us to the universe, to frequencies, energies, and everything outside of the body.
Yeah, and I've heard you talk about on some other live sessions that you've done at radio stations or videos, the orientation of your first trilogy that you just mentioned with Nameless, Stay Tuned, and Three Little Words as kind of being about your journey through histories in the musical traditions that you play, and then that perhaps this current trilogy comes more from within you. Do I understand that right? Maybe I've heard you talk about something like this.
Absolutely. Yeah, it was definitely a journey looking back. And now I'm trying to be in a journey that is really here. And there was definitely as soon as I tried to pay attention to what music made me vibrate growing up, and I could tell it was blues, jazz, soul, R&B, hip hop. And once I started exploring them and going deeper, I realized that it was a capsule for the elements that the history books were not relating. So you have the history books for where, what, when, but then you have the how did people feel, the souls, the emotion, the emotional landscape was all captured within the music. And I think that's why it makes us vibrate so much, because it's coming straight from the soul and from very intense emotion. And that's something that I found fascinating. So I wanted to explore that And now that I went through it, it kind of felt like my formative years in a way where I discovered myself musically because I was self-taught. So it was kind of my own school that I created for myself. And now I get to explore myself and my own creation and my way of making music a bit deeper and being more and more free and fluid in that communication style.
That's so cool. When you mention your way of making music, what I think of, after having revisited most of your records on the way to speaking with you today, is I think of you as this orchestrator of this space that is very true to you, and it's very vocal driven, and it can come across as very stripped down. But this goes back to Nameless, even. I would say you could also say it's like wide open or organic or even very choral in terms of this way that you have about orchestrating things. You leave so much space, you fill them in with your own harmonized vocals, and like you don't create these arrangements that you have to fuss over necessarily. It feels like there's a calmness to it. How do you think of yourself when you're in the moment making that music in terms of orchestrating what's going on? What do you feel like your role is?
I love the word orchestrated. Thanks for that description. It makes me feel like dun, 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 dun. When I create music, there is definitely a meditative aspect, and the process has always been. Some people call it channeling. To me, it's just letting your intuition flow and music kind of come out. So it's a funny thing because at the end of it, I remember the first time I finished my first album, realizing I don't know how I did that. It just happened. Can I even do that again? How do we know how to make music? But I guess it's just part of us as humans. We all are born creators. As kids, we always play. We make art without even thinking about it or think of the result. And I think that this has been a big part of my learning process, has been allowing the inner child to have the most fun and allowing the intuition to be connected to the flow and the moment and the expression that kind of comes out organically if you give it some room. And all you need to do is get your brain to step away with all the judgment or all the social construct of what is good, what is not. Art is great for the process of it before the result. And I think that this is a big part of my process. And it's actually at the core of my next album. It was the actual topic and the one thing that became the most important in the whole journey of it.
Wow. When you say two words that you just said there, which was inner child and flow, I think about, you have two singles out from this album right now. And I think about the tracks on it, which I've been lucky enough to have heard the whole thing. But I think about the river, because the river is such a good image for both of those things, in terms of obviously the river flows, but then also there's this refrain in the river that's like, let's heal together and let's belong. And I think that maybe speaks to something to do with the inner child. But that was the track I thought of when you were just describing that in terms of the new record.
Yeah, absolutely. And my inner child I feel like it was a mix of my inner child being appeased and kind of welcomed by the flow, but also being able to jump and play at the end of the song where it becomes more festive and for it to really express itself and jump around, because I do have we all have both parts. We're all, multiple persons in one. We're all plural, and being able to express my plurality from my more calm side to my more excited kid was a very fun journey.
I love that, because your other single that's out now, it does the same thing. There's Going Home, and that has a whole new tempo that happens at the end of the song, because at first it starts with just you accompanied by nylon string acoustic and then bass, but then it kicks into something else entirely. And you're right, so does The River. They both contain more than one thing.
Yes, and a lot of the album is about the dualities and the multitudes of us and the need for all of them to be welcomed and um, just appreciating each other. No one trying to push anyone out. We're just many little people trying to coexist inside our heads.
I also appreciate the lyric video where we drink a cup of tea and sip from it over and over again.
And it's actually a teacup that belongs to my mom because she has a teacup collection, and this album is dedicated to my mom. So I got to go pick my favorite one so I could make the cover and the lyric video.
Oh, that's great. I love that. Then thematically on that song, I heard it as, especially in kind of the first half before it makes the change, right? There's a bunch of expressions, as far as I interpreted it, there's a bunch of expressions about things getting better, but then also about things getting worse. And then it kind of moves from there, but that's another duality, right?
Absolutely. And they're they're like two sides to the same coin. The reality that to evolve, to grow, to find inner peace, there is a journey of back and forth. And sometimes we have a feeling that the evolution is, it's up and down, but realistically speaking, it's always up. It's just that it has curves. And I wanted to be able to represent that, the notion of movement, going, which is linked to moving forward, that idea, but that moving forward can go in both directions, but they both remain part of our evolution, whether it be a challenge that we're confronted to that will bring us a lesson or an evolutive part, or the happy moments where we rejoice because everything is easy for a minute.
Yeah. The track that really struck me, I mean, I've kind of played mostly in the local jazz scene here in Vancouver. When I think about a lot of the sounds that I've enjoyed hearing here over the last couple of years and things that we get inspired by, they're kind of things where you can meditate and explore like a repeated figure or like a wide open space for like a long period of time. And there's a track on your new album that's like that. It's Rhythm of Nature. And I think that's the one that just stuck with me the most. It had this big impact kind of in terms of the space that's there and how it just floats over a repeated figure. Can you talk about that track a little bit?
I'm so happy that you connected with it. It's my favorite one, personally. It was such a joy to create that track. It felt so good. And it was all recorded in synchronicity with my trumpetist. So every track I would sing while he was playing the trumpet. We were in the separate booths, obviously, but I could feel the connection being created, and the sparseness of it all gave us so much room to breathe and to really sink into the song. And the fact that it's, I think, about 9 minutes long, gave us all the room to evolve through it, flow, have different dynamics, organically come out, and for us to just improvise with the energy that it gave. And I always felt like silence is an instrument that is underrated. So it gave us a lot of time and room to explore that, to the right moments to hold back, the right moment to come back in, and to realize that we were really getting in sync. That to the point where the very last note, I remember him doing the trumpet right when I started humming and be like, this feels so good. We are so in sync right now. This is beautiful. And it's a magical feeling. It's amazing.
That's really special. Yeah. The way that it comes together in a live sense. Yeah. So you mentioned your trumpet player, and that makes me think of a couple other musicians too. You have had long-time collaborators on your journey that runs across most or all of your records, with people in the same instrumental roles in your band and in the production and even in the physical space where you've made all of your full-length records. What does that mean to you now that it's accumulated a few years of having that?
It feels like building a family. I love long-term connections, and I find that it's like an echo and it's mirroring the idea of creating a long-term connection with the public and with the artistic process that I'm trying to share. Because I was told so many times when I started, you cannot do trilogies, you have to do singles, people don't have time, blah, blah, blah. And choosing to say, I refuse this idea that we have to go quickly, do everything and move on to the next. And that long-term relationship with my artistic process and the people who connect with the music feels like the mirror of the long time, the loyalty and the journey that I've been on with this team that is now friends and family that are just amazing souls. So I do think that their love for music and their intention and the beautiful souls that they are is leaking into the music. So why change a winning formula?
I'd love to just, before we talk about some of the recent touring and performances you've done, see if we could zero in on one more aspect of that, like specifically the place, like this studio that I believe is outside of Montreal or in the greater Montreal area. What is it like to come back to open the door and step back into that space again and again after you've made like each of your records there and now you're back again for a new one in the same space?
I wish every musician or even people could be at that studio at some point because the energy there is amazing. So I record at the studio Opus, which is in Assomption. So maybe like 30 minutes from Montreal. I've had the same sound engineer, producer, Jacques Roy, who's been doing everything, mixing. He understands me perfectly. So already it's like you're just coming to see a friend to play with him. And he always works at that studio. And that studio is by the water. So often the first thing I will do is go by the water, have my coffee, then get in and get to just enjoy the energy of the place. It's a lot of wood. It's actually linked to a house, so you do feel like you're going into a house, like it's a home. You know, it's a home for music, and it's just big windows that allow you to see the river and the garden right there. So the connection with nature is perfect, and I'm very inspired by nature in my music. So it just feels like life brought me the most perfect place to make the music that I've been wanting to make, and is the best studio in my personal opinion. Also, they make everything Atmos, so we've always been in high definition thanks to them and all the equipment that they got because it's not easy to do, but they make it easy and they make it fun. So a big shout out to Studio Opus and Jacques Roy.
Nice. Yeah, speaking of playing in studios, this has to do with some live things you've done, but you played in September of this past year. You played both KEXP and Audio Tree, and those are on YouTube that people can watch full sessions. No singles were out from My World is the Sun yet, but you did something that I enjoyed, you know, having just kind of blitzed through your discography on the way into watching these and was kind of ready to observe, which is that in both of them, one of your first numbers or your very first number was you would start with like an half formed bit of Feeling Good, which you covered on your first full length record, Nameless. But like you wouldn't finish the lines. You would just kind of say the first bit of the line and then you wouldn't say, you know how I feel or something. You move on. Like you kind of go over Feeling Good, which you did record and cover, and then at the end you would segue immediately into one of your own pieces, Feeling Like a Plant, which is from Our Roots Run Deep. I just thought that was a fun arrangement move to start your sets with. How did you come up with that, or is there anything you want to share about that?
It was a lot of fun to do, and I remember with the band, like, because we have to create a set list, we would call it Feeling Good Like a Plant. So it was the mix of both. And I do feel like being able to bring with me some part of what I've created or what has been done and mixing it with the present, having the story continue is really important. And we also love creating segues between songs. Because, for example, in my shows, I tell the public when I arrive that there will be very little room for applause because I made all the songs kind of intertwined so that people can really sink into their seat and take in the frequency. So that was a part of that creation, starting the show right off, sharing that side of us, the fact that we will be creating merges between songs. Everything that we've created in the past will still be echoed sometimes in some kind of ways or a little wink here and there. And it was just a lot of fun to create with the band.
You then did your first ever tour in the US, or around that time you did, and you played a lot of places, including, I think you played at both the Blue Note NYC and the Blue Note LA. So how was your time touring the US?
It was a wonderful month, honestly. We even got to do the Blue Note Napa. So for me to be able to tour the States for the very first time and be welcome in such iconic places felt surreal. I felt so privileged to get to be on those stages. Um, People were so kind, so welcoming. Um, there is a lot going on right now. And there has been a lot going on. I feel since the pandemic, everything has been heightened and just, but it just keeps reminding me that no matter where you go, no matter the climate, politically or society wise, it's humans everywhere. It's humans with the same emotions and souls trying to do their best to find some space where they can feel connected to each other and feel good. And that's what music does. So I'm very happy and I feel very lucky that I get to do this as a full-time mission.
Yeah, full time is right. You're going to be playing a lot in this coming season. You've got European dates, you've got Canadian dates. It seems like it would resemble a lot of the people on your record and from watching the KEXP and Audio Tree. But thinking of Vancouver here, when you come here in a couple of weeks, who is going to be playing with you when you come here to Vancouver?
We're going to have the same beautiful people in Vancouver, I believe. The classical band, the typical formation that has been coming with me. I do think that on the keyboard is going to be Camille instead of David. So we have Etienne at the guitar, Harvey at the drums, Danny at the bass, Camille at the keyboard, and Simon, which is my sound engineer, which I count as a musician because he is, and he creates such a beautiful link between all of us. I like to see it as he's curating to the sonic experience of the band, and he's like the glue of it all.
Yeah, when you tour as much as you do, touring with your own live sound person is a must, really, and especially because of some of the elements of your music.
Yeah, for sure. And he really understands the energy that we're trying to create and the frequency that we're trying to curate. So he's an amazing soundman. I feel like every artist we should get the financing to be able to bring them on everywhere. I'm lucky that I get to do that. I know it's not everyone, but people underestimate the importance and how elevated your show will be if you allow a professional who knows you to follow you around.
Yeah. Last thing here, a fun one, a speculative thing. I have no information about this, nor do I expect you to confirm it. But at my publication, Rhythm Changes, it has a color. It has one color that is its theme, and that color is one that you haven't used yet, and it is orange. So I'm wondering, will you ever make an orange record?
Will I? Nobody knows. Nobody knows. I would. I feel like it's easy to guess the colors once you've looked at the patterns of the circles. But yeah,
Maybe.
Maybe we'll be talking about an orange album on the next cycle. Who knows? Or the next album.
Yeah, you just have to play another 100 shows, and then after the next 100 shows, you'll be on the orange record.
Exactly. It's coming. It comes fast.
Yeah, it sure does. It's been so much fun to meet you here and to hear about your perspective on this new project, and it's gonna be great to have you back here in Vancouver. Is there anything else on your mind that you wanted to shout out or point towards or anything before we wrap?
Well, that I love Vancouver, so I'm very excited to come back. I'm very excited to meet everyone, to meet you, and to have the show. When it comes to the album, I guess I love underlining that it's actually a gift from my mom. So it's dedicated to my mom. And it's also a lot of the lessons and the values that she's taught me growing up, like the importance of the fact that you don't find peace, you build it, So this tour is part of trying to build some inner peace for me and for whoever wants to welcome it. And that I'm very grateful for your time and for everyone coming out to the show.
That's a great sentiment to end on. Thanks again for joining
Thank you.
me.